Hi, I'm Björn, and today I'm going to make an experiment, building translation pipeline for my game using two different AIs, OpenAI and DeepL. Just stay with me for a moment. The idea of using AI came to me while exploring the ChatGPT. My first test proved that it's good enough to understand the human language and translate it into other human languages. That was enough to make me waste a day or two building a basic automated pipeline for extracting and translating text for my game. How does it work? The first step was to swap all the text in my game with a pair of key and the message. Next, I made a simple script that would extract such pairs into the external file with the original translations, English in this case. They will be swapped in the runtime with the language selected by the player. Next, I made a tool that will connect to the OpenAI and send a prompt with instructions and messages to translate. The last step was simple: gather all translations and put them in a file. After this, I upgraded it a little to translate only messages that were new or changed from the previous run. And it worked, but not without problems. Let's see. The first problem was that I couldn't use the ChatGPT because there was no API at this time. The paid version was revealed later, but I wanted to keep it at no cost for an experiment purposes. I decided to use an OpenAI text completion API, which is free for a few months. It's not as amazing as the ChatGPT, but it worked. The next problem was the text limitation. I fixed it by batching my messages and sending them in parts. Same with quotas. I added some small delays to not exceed them. The next problem was the instability of the OpenAI server. It was easy to fix, just adding a retry. The next problem was that AI from time to time skipped some of the translations at the beginning or at the end. I made a simple check if the number of translations is the same on input and output. The next and most weird problem was that after a lot of retries, an AI learned what is the next message in the batch, and after some time it started to return it instead of translations, which was pretty creepy. It was a little harder to fix, but I realized that shuffling the messages before sending them to translation is enough to confuse the AI. There was a problem with translating some of the languages like Japanese, which for some reason ignored the new line character and just returned one big sentence with all translations, but this problem seems to be fixed now. Every time you send the messages to translate, it may result in different translations, but it's something that is reasonable when using AI. I think that the results would be much better if I would use ChatGPT instead of text completion. So what is the quality of our results? As you may hear, English is not my native language. My native language is Polish. So it was pretty easy for me to check if the translation is correct, at least in my own language. It took me a few runs of fixing the English sources to make it easier for an AI to translate them correctly, but now it's not that bad. From time to time there are some weird language constructs that AI use, at least for a native, but it's not a big problem unless you really want professional translations, of course. After this I made an implementation of the client that connects to the DeepL instead of OpenAI, and the result was rather not satisfying. DeepL didn't want to translate some of the simple words, mainly short ones like labels, but also some from the middle of the long sentence. It keeps creating new words from English ones that could act like Polish words, but they don't. If you have an idea why this happens, let me know. For now, I will stick with the OpenAI. I recorded a blind test for the languages that I want to support in my new game, Sliding Swords, a mix of 2048 and the Vampire Survivors. If you know one of the languages displayed on the screen right now, you can go to the corresponding chapter in the linked result video and check out the quality by yourself. Even if it's not perfect, it is much easier to fix by the native speaker. Don't bother about display bugs, it will be fixed later. If you want to help me, let me know in the comment section if the translation makes any sense. Thank you very much and see you next time.